Tuesday, November 18th. Welcome into Casey Sports Tonight. Marlia Campbell here, joined by Gabe Swartz. Gabe, I promised this in our 5 p.m. show tease. We are moving on from the Broncos game, and we're looking ahead to, I think we did enough of that yesterday, and we are looking ahead to Sunday's game against the Colts. So really started diving into that one today in my show prep. Yikes. Doesn't get any easier from here. You got the number one scoring offense in the NFL, Jonathan Taylor, who is the fourth favorite to win to win NFL MVP right now, and you got a team that's 8-2 with a 2-game lead in their division coming to town. So, how you feeling?
Honestly, if I start thinking about this matchup, one of the things, and I don't know if this is rational or not, one of the things that concerns me more than Jonathan Taylor and more than Daniel Jones, because I think that there's evidence to prove that the Chiefs defense is so much better at home than on the road. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the sneaky things that concerns me more than the offensive part of the Colts is that their defense is coordinated by Lou Anarumo.
Yep.
Who you can say, I mean, the Chiefs had decent success against the Bengals, but there were several games in which he completely, or not completely, he gave them issues and he
AFC
exposed their problems.
2022, for example.
Specifically for the second half of that entire game.
Yeah. I was booking my flights to LA at halftime. I was like getting ready because the Super Bowl was there that year, and what were they up at halftime? I don't know. Definitely double
21-3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm like getting all my flight information because I'm gonna go cover the Super Bowl with our CBS station in Topeka at the time, and personally derailed that plan for me.
But I think that I remember having the conversation when the Lions game happened and the Chiefs came home from losing to the Jags and they were 2-3, and saying I think that you will get a playoff level intensity from the Chiefs. You'll get a playoff level game plan from the Chiefs. You'll get playoff level fourth quarter or fourth down aggressiveness from the offense. I think all of those things will be necessary on Sunday. I think all of those things that the comments on Monday from Andy Reid about not being as negative as everybody outside of the building, I hope that translates to this team having some juice and some belief, and not a woe is me attitude. I know that the Chiefs put out the video on social media this week or yesterday it may have been, of I think Trent McDuffie was mic'd up for the game and in Denver, and he and Trey Smith were walking off the field, and he was like, we just got to keep going. And I think that if that is the approach and the mentality, we had a lot of negative on this show yesterday. I'm going to choose to be a little bit of optimist here.
Okay, we need it.
I think that if they win this game, and I said this when they played Denver, if they won the Denver game and if they won the Indy game, the schedule gets so much clearer to the end of the season, and all of the metrics say that this team is better than last year's team by so many different things. Now, I think that what that gives you the opportunity to is when you're playing these opponents that are not of the caliber of the Broncos and of the caliber of the Eagles and the Bills and the other teams that you've played, when you're just playing, and now the Colts are of that caliber, so that's why I think that this is the challenge. But once you get past it, and once you get to Cowboys, Titans, Texans, teams like those, you're in theory not going to have to do all of the fourth quarter magic stuff all of the time, and the ability to blow teams out like the Chiefs showed earlier this year, you would think will show up a little bit more, and they'll be able to get rolling. And that's why I think that the storyline of this week in the NFL is every team in the AFC being putting on their Indianapolis Colts hats and saying, go Colts, go, because the one thing that the league does not want is the Chiefs winning this game, getting a little bit of a breath of relief, and then going on a run to close the season and being 11-6 or 12-5 going into the playoffs hot, and because that's the only at this point, if the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, they will go into the playoffs as one of the hottest teams in football. They will have to. They will objectively have to have won 6 of their last 7, because the route to go 5-2 is to get an insane amount of help from the Jaguars and Chargers. Sure, that's possible, but ultimately they will have to be one of the hottest teams in football, and so that's why I'm saying this is frustrating that they're in a must-win situation, but it's a spot where they can do this.
It's kind of a backhanded positive, I think, that it's still they're in the position of being in a must-win. But, I mean, you mentioned it. We're moving on to the playoff picture a little bit. Chiefs currently lose the head-to-head to all 3 teams hosting the wild card spot. That was going to be my next question is, without looking at the, math, what needs to happen these next couple weeks? Do you need to win out? Do you need to take care of business against both these teams? We used the word must win when it was coming to winning the AFC West last week. This week feels like a must win. Worst case scenario, you have to head into Dallas 4 days later, 5-6 with 6 games to go.
Yeah, I think that they have to win this one, and because if they don't, then they ultimately have to go 6-0 to finish out. And if they go to 5-6, I don't think they are. I don't think that they will have. At some point, it just becomes psychological, where even if you believe that you're good, even if the metrics and such say that they should be better than their record, these are human beings playing. And it's not like the game is not played on a spreadsheet, and you can tell these guys, well, everything points to you guys being better than last year, but you're not executing at that level, and you're going to feel the intrinsic pressure of, oh, we have to play perfect football for 6 weeks. I don't think that they have to play perfect football for the next 7 weeks, because I don't think that their opponents for several of those weeks will require perfect football. I think that if you watched Monday Night Football last week or last night, you would say that the Raiders in Week 18 is not going to be a game that requires perfect football. The Titans, who are 1-9 in Week, what would that be, 16, is not going to be requiring perfect football. But this weekend might. And so that's the test. That's the thing to look for. Now, I just said go 6-1, go 7-0, and you're in the playoffs. At 5-2, I think that the hope, if you go 5-2, the hope to get in the playoffs is the Chargers game at home is a must-win, because you have to have given them one of their 3 losses that would be required. They would have to go, I believe, 4-3 or worse or I think they would have to do worse than 4-3 to get in. So you would have to be a team that gives them a loss. But I still think that one of the paths that's not being talked about is the Steelers just falling apart. Aaron Rodgers just had a slight break in his non-throwing wrist, so I don't know if he's going to play this weekend. But if Mason Rudolph's out there and they go to Chicago, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose. The Bears are 7-3. Then they play the Bills. Then Ravens. They play the Ravens. They play the Ravens another time. And the Ravens have started to figure things out. So I think that I don't know. I think that the Jaguars, because they get the Titans twice, I don't know if they're the team that falls out. But they also play the Colts twice. So I can envision a route to any of those teams falling out. I think that the Ravens winning the AFC North and pushing the Steelers to 6 or 7 losses is probably the most likely, in my opinion, because there's just been so many examples of the Steelers looking like very much not a playoff team when you look at like the way they played in the second half against the Packers, the way that they just completely no-showed against the Chargers. But then the NFL is so weird, you can turn around and say, well, look at what the Chargers just did in Jacksonville. Like they got completely blown out by a Jacksonville team that
Dolphins blowing out the Bills a couple weeks ago.
So I do think, though, that you're in a spot where the 5 teams or the 4 teams that you think are in no matter what is the Colts, Broncos, Patriots, and I think the Bills are in. Their schedule is just so soft with their division. So Thursday night this week, I think if you're in Kansas City, it's not something that happens very often. You're probably rooting for the Bills to beat the Texans, push the Texans further down. Ultimately, the Chiefs get to play the Texans anyways, so they can give them a loss as well. But it's so sad that we have to do this
I was
conversation
just
in November.
thinking that was going to be my next point. Isn't that
But
crazy? This time last year, we're talking about like 1 or 2 more wins until you got the AFC West in the bag. Yeah.
But you're not like, when you do this exercise, and then you look at the Chiefs' schedule, and you're like, show me the losses. People would point to this Sunday against the Colts.
Yeah.
So if the Chiefs win this week, and then you can avoid allowing Dallas to go for like 35 on you on Thanksgiving, which I think Dallas is one of the ultimate like front runner teams in professional football. If they are up and things are going well early, they usually run away with it. And if they're down, things spiral very fast. So I think the first quarter on Thanksgiving is going to be a huge tone setter for that game. But like down the stretch, I'm already like the Chiefs are functionally, literally 5-5, but I'm counting the Raiders game as a win. I'm counting the Titans game as a win.
Yeah.
I'm counting the Texans game at home as a win. So in my mind, they're 8-5, and they need to go.
And you got Colts,
3-1.
Cowboys, Chargers, Broncos. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the way that people would think in that building.
I see it. I see the
but
route.
Like logically, that's where my brain's at.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to final topic of the day, which is big men's basketball game tonight. Champions Classic up at Madison Square Garden. We kind of knew this, but it was confirmed today. No Darren Peterson, KU's star freshman, projected to be the number 1 pick in this year's or the upcoming NBA draft. Gabe, do you think we will have a basketball game in New York City today? And by that I mean something
like
worth watching.
A competitive game.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I'm intrigued to see what it looks like, because both games that KU played without Darren Peterson, there were several things that you could point to as like, okay, there's some positives. There's some things that they can work on, and it's probably good for this team to figure out how to run offense without him on the court inevitably when he gets back. Duke is not the team that I would want to do that against, although I would say Duke has crushed the teams that they've played aside from their game against Texas, and Texas is not a team that is expected to be like one of the best teams in the SEC this season. That was a moderately competitive game in Charlotte on a neutral court. So, I mean, I could see it. I think that it's a tall task, and the route to them being really good tonight is to just kind of like let Jaden Dawson shoot a bunch. I think he has to be – you kind of have to give him the reins to play a little bit like he did at Loyola Chicago. I think you need Trey White to be special. Like, he can't just be like a role player type guy tonight. He has to be up to par. And honestly, the big fish of the transfer portal for KU is that they got Flory back. Like, he entered the portal and then he came back. And he got a lot of money to do so. So he has to play like that tonight. And that it's a tall task because he's going up against Cameron Boozer, who's one of the best freshmen in the country, and is in that conversation with Darren Peterson, where the Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz, all these really bad NBA teams, are going to be in there at Madison Square Garden tonight to watch, and probably wanted to see Boozer versus Peterson, and are just going to get to see Boozer against Flory. I know that they wouldn't guard each other, but like actually playing against each other. I'm curious to see how it goes. I think if you're a KU fan, I've seen the sentiment online of like, I don't even want to watch this if there's not going to be Darren Peterson. And they are. I saw someone did the research. I do not remember who it was, but I saw the tweet. This is the first time that KU has been a double-digit underdog since the year 2000. So literally,
isn't that crazy?
Yes. I think it was Bill Clinton was still in office.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, yeah.
That is absurd to me.
I'm like doing the math back in my head to think about. Even last year's team, which was the worst team in the USL era, was
they were always like 6,
favorite.
7, 8-point underdogs, even in their road games. And I think when they played at Houston, they were like 9-point underdogs, and people were saying, "Oh, this is the biggest underdog that Bill Self Kansas team has ever been." This is breaking that, which I don't know. Is Bill Self going to be able to go to the guys and say, like, guys, nobody thinks you're going to win tonight. Let's go out there and cause some havoc. They have to play good defense to me. They're not going to be able to just outscore Duke.
Yeah.
So it probably has to be a rock fight. And the team that played in North Carolina, the version of Kansas that defended really well in the first half but didn't rebound, like, they absolutely cannot afford to give up extra possessions to Duke and allow Duke to crash the offensive glass and do all those kinds of things. I think KU has to slow the tempo and do all those kinds of things. Like, this is not advice, but it is a thought.
Okay.
I saw the total is like 148.5. If KU has any chance of winning,
Has to be the under.
it has to be under.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I am disappointed. I think the rest of the college basketball universe is, because we were promised what would have been a really, really fun game in, the New York City Lights at Madison Square Garden, as you mentioned. Going to be a star-packed crowd, and, you got a blue blood. I mean, this is what you want in the non-conference. It's kind of what gets you going through the weeks to the conference season. Here's why I'm concerned. I know the North Carolina game isn't a 1-for-1, but you had Darren Peterson and you got outscored by 21 in the second half, and that was with a 22-point performance by Peterson. So, I mean, certainly have seen crazier upsets before, and I think, as you mentioned, Self is going to lean into that. Like, who is this team without Darren Peterson? And in the long run, it could strengthen you. It's to make it a Chiefs analogy. We saw last year with having some injuries early. You bring in guys like Kareem Hunt, you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, and then you get your injured guys back, and it's kind of cut one head off the monster, grow back three more. So if you can figure out your identity and kind of get some guys to grow without the crutch of Peterson in the non-conference, and maybe that benefits you down the line, there's your silver lining. But won't know until the ball's tipped, right? We got a 8 p.m. tip-off in New York City. Regardless, should be fun.
I'm curious to see when he's back. The statement and that's the other conversation, is that the statement that Bill Self put out today and that KU put out today was that he will be reevaluated at the end of the week. Now, they can say that because they don't have another game this week. Their next game is Monday in Vegas against Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the schedule will be in terms of when they will next do a media availability. I would presume Thursday or Friday in Lawrence before they travel to Vegas this weekend.
Yeah.
But you still have Notre Dame, you still have Syracuse, you still have Mizzou at T-Mobile Center in a neutral site game, you still have UConn at Allen Fieldhouse, you still have NC State
What a
on the road.
non-conference slate.
And so,
I mean, this has got to be in the top 5 to 10.
Easily.
Yeah.
And so if the Peterson injury is he's not back, or if the framing of it becomes we want to have him ready for conference season,
mm-hmm.
the question then that gets asked of the other 9 guys of the rotation, 8 guys of the rotation, is, can you steady the water, steady the ship,
keep us afloat,
in non-conference long enough that when you come back and play in Big 12 play, that Darren and the rest of you don't have to play like essentially perfect basketball and do what we were just talking about with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
have
and
no
NCAA
margin for error.
Will take that into account, but
and that's where you need Allen Fieldhouse to like the game against UConn needs to be a home court wins you that one,
mm-hmm.
or steals you that one, and then do some other things, and like you can't have what they flirted with a little bit on Saturday afternoon with a close game against Princeton for
mm-hmm.
a while. You can't afford to lose any of the bye games. That goes without saying, but like what I am saying is that if they don't have Darren Peterson, it is not some like lock that this team is a no doubt about it tournament team, which is crazy to say for Kansas standards. But that's just a matter of fact, and it's not because they wouldn't, like, if Bill Self had scheduled a soft non-conference and just padded in 9 to 10 wins in non-conference and been like, okay, we're going to be 10-2 heading into Big 12 play, or 11-2 heading into Big 12 play, then they would be fine, because then you would presume that they'd be able to go 500 at least in Big 12 play and get to 20 wins. But if he's not out there for all of non-conference, this is a team that could easily go into Big 12 play at like 8-4. So it's tough.
Yeah.
And that's like the gloomiest outlook for the injury, and I don't know
Yeah.
what it'll be like. It seems
It's so hard
like
with soft tissue stuff
yeah.
to have any idea. Yeah. Time will tell. The good news is that we know with Darren Peterson, he's been, he was the talk of the offseason. He's been everything I think you could have asked for and more.
Yeah,
and
when
we've
he's
got
out
a
there.
very small sample size. Yeah. So fingers crossed this is something we have forgotten about come February and not kind of one of those lingering things. That's another issue with soft tissue stuff. But time will tell. So Duke, Kansas, 8 o'clock tonight at Madison Square Garden. That's Kansas City time. Of course, Chiefs Colts on Sunday. That's at noon on KCTV5, and then we have the Thanksgiving game at 3:25 as well. 4 days later, lots to come. But that'll do it for us today here on KC Sports Tonight, and we'll see you back here same time, same place tomorrow.